Lord Premier, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm and hearty welcome to you all for coming here this evening. Special welcome to our Premier, Mr David Tonkin, Mrs Tonkin, Mr Scott Ashington, our State Member of Parliament at the top, His Worship the Mayor of Woodville, Mr John Dyer and Mrs Dyer, the State Director of the Industrial Design Council of Australia, Mr Doug Bell and Mrs Bell, and all you very important people who have travelled from far away to come here this evening. It's also extremely pleasing to see in attendance many of our long-standing business colleagues. Your attendance here this evening is truly indicative of the teamwork that's gone on behind the scenes for many gyms, as most certainly helped GTI to reach the size it is today. In a very few short moments, I'll be asking our Premier to officially open this, our display centre, and to officiate in the presentation of certain awards. However, firstly, I need to express to you all a great sense of pride. A great sense of pride in the manner which we have all worked together as a team. A sense of pride in the manner which we have all displayed an attitude of company health first and personal individualism second. To achieve our rate of growth, to quote and confirm those now immortal words, life wasn't meant to be easy, yet a strict adherence and respect for our company objectives by all staff has grown for what was once a little acorn into a young oak tree. It is indeed becoming increasingly hard for me to believe it was only 6 short years ago that this business was founded. Its humble beginnings in my garden tool shed. Our early years were a struggle. We overcome that which we believe to have been enormous difficulties. Perhaps our most major difficulty was trying to squeeze 2 desks, 2 filing cabinets, a large sales force, and office staff in a 6 foot by 12 foot garden tool shed. Minus the garden tools, of course. Yet out of this struggle came a sense, a purpose, a formula, a successful formula, a commitment by individuals to accepting responsibilities and getting on with the job and producing the results. Our regular constructive meetings, our detailed performance reporting has all assisted in the formulation of a forward plan, a plan that will keep us in the forefront of this highly competitive home improvement industry. There has indeed been many extreme individual efforts, many hours contributed over and above our unwritten call of duty. These extreme individual efforts have not gone by unnoticed. However, I find it significant that not only should the thanks and recognition go to these special individuals, but should be extended to their wives, their partners, for without whose help and support, I'm sure their successes would not have been achieved. Our corporate growth, with good purpose, shall continue. In fact, I am hopeful that this evening's events will motivate many of the ambitious within our group to take advantage of the various company-sponsored further educational programs available to them. For we as a company shall continue to foster our long-standing policy of promotion from within. Therefore, special emphasis will be placed upon those individuals developing within their own specialised talented areas. I believe every company has a reason for its existence. I know our company here is for the benefit of us all, and to reflect on a famous politician's words. He serves his party best, who serves his country best. I know we shall all obviously benefit from this, our new display centre. We shall all obviously benefit from the additional sales income generated here. We shall all equally benefit from the continuation of our attitude of providing premium products with the highest degree of customer service to our community. Therefore, we can all look forward to this display centre and our continued policies to project and launch us into far bigger markets than that which we presently exist and service. And by doing so, create further employment and contribute further to our community. Thank you for your attention this morning. Thank you. I'd now like to introduce someone very important this evening. But firstly, I'd like to express a belief. As I sincerely believe that we all here at GTI should be very highly honoured that our Premier, Mr. David Tonkin, a man who is obviously very busy with the affairs of our state, should find sufficient cause and interest to be here this evening and assist in the various duties. This interest and encouragement, Mr. Premier, is indeed a very highly motivating factor for us all. It is indeed this business involvement by our leading politicians that is and will continue to make SA great. I would now like to ask our Premier to say a few words prior to unveiling our plaque and cutting our ribbon and officially declaring this our display centre open. Therefore, can I please have a very warm welcome for our Right Honourable Premier Mr. David Tonkin.
Well, thank you very much, Colin. I suppose I should start off by saying to the partners and their partners, Your Worship, my parliamentary colleague Scott Ashington, distinguished guests, and I think you all come into that category, so there's no need to say ladies and gentlemen. I wouldn't do this tonight for anything, because this sort of development epitomises exactly what politicians get up and talk about when they talk about private enterprise and what it can achieve. And let me start the evening by saying congratulations, what a wonderful effort, what an absolutely magnificent result so far. But you've got a bit further to go yet, and I'll talk about that a bit later on. Obviously, I'm delighted to be here. I was very pleased to have the invitation to come, and I repeat, nothing would keep me away. Mind you, that's not exactly right, and I apologise for what seems to be a slight gravelly character in my voice. I thought until I read the news tonight that I'd caught a cold a few days ago. I feel very much relieved to know that what I'm suffering from is the 10-day virus which is sweeping across the metropolitan area. I felt so much better when I read that, I can't tell you. Doesn't help much. I get the chance to see quite a few things, developments of this kind. I see ceremonies and I officiate new and expanded business premises. But nothing I've seen quite matches this expansion from garden tool shed to this magnificent warehouse and display centre. There's something else that I must say too, and be honest to admit. I couldn't possibly have stayed away tonight because you don't know this yet, but I've been asked to make 2 speeches. And no politician ever gives up the opportunity of having 2 goes. You know, investments like these and developments like these are the visible and concrete evidence of the continued growth of South Australia. And they're part of that growth, and they make South Australia's growth happen. And despite all of the ill-founded remarks and statements of a very few now vocal prophets of doom and gloom. We are going ahead. South Australia is moving ahead, and we've set a pace which at the present time is not being matched by any other state. And that's something that I'm very proud of. And obviously Gold Temp has recognised the potential which exists in South Australia, the increased opportunities that inevitably are going to occur in the future. And I compliment the firm on having that vision and that confidence and that dedication to hard work which makes it possible for them to invest not only in its own future but in the future of this state. Now this new warehouse and showroom complex is the latest in an impressive list of commercial, industrial and retail investments which have been made in South Australia since my government came to office just a little more than 1,000 days ago. And in those 1,000 days, at least 100 companies have either established or expanded in this state. When you think about it, that's one every 10 days. And in those 1,000 days, the total investment in this growth pattern is more than $1,000 million. An average of $1 million new investment in South Australia every day since we came to office. And that's a record that I must confess I'm very, very proud of. And I believe that it's a record that all South Australians can be proud of. Let me say that that sort of record of investment growth and expansion, particularly in today's fairly difficult times, is unparalleled for any 3-year period in South Australia's history, even in Tom Playford's day. And not since the post-war industrialisation of South Australia, which occurred in that time, have we seen such a continuous period of development. And let me emphasise that that $1,000 million does not include the Cooper Basin liquid scheme or the Roxby Downs copper gold uranium mine. And that is added on top. The 800-kilometre liquids pipeline linking the Cooper Basin with the southern coast probably matches in cost, certainly, but certainly too in importance that water pipeline, that vital lifeline which was built between the River Murray and Adelaide and the northern towns, the Morgan-Whyalla pipeline. It's just as important in its own way. And Roxby Downs does have the genuine potential to match, even eclipse, the BHP development which started at Whyalla with the signing of an indenture 40 years ago. And the liquid scheme and Roxby Downs are each worth another $1,000 million. They're real. They're now going to happen. And you can see why I'm excited, why we should all be full of confidence about the future. They're not dreams anymore, they're not illusions. One of the difficulties, of course, is that when you speak about this $1,000 million project, it's very hard to imagine what $1,000 million looks like, or even begin to appreciate it. You just can't grasp the extent of it. But the important thing is that the majority of the money being pumped into Roxby Downs and other projects is being spent right here in South Australia, and it's going to go into the pockets of the people who are working in companies and establishments like this. Because it won't all go at the mine site. There are 200 jobs up there now, but there are 800 jobs already created around the metropolitan area, elsewhere in the state. Because Roxby Downs is going to need houses, and houses are going to need windows, and furniture, and white goods, and carpets, and household appliances, and catering. And the town will need water cartage for a time, and steel equipment, and mineral assessments, and air transport, and school teachers, and bus services, mechanical services. You name it, any service that a town now needs, Roxby Downs will need. And that is the challenge which faces all of the people in South Australia and all of private enterprise. Because all of those support facilities will be necessary and they will have to be provided from within South Australia. And so all of those jobs are going to expand as the operation grows. And inevitably, firms like Gold Temp are going to be right in there. If I know the Three Musketeers, they'll be right in there. And they deserve to do well. You know, what continues to surprise and disappoint me is that South Australians just don't yet realise that the state has entered a new era, an exciting era of growth, because what we need more than anything else is a belief in ourselves. I'm not talking about arrogance, and sometimes I think the Queenslanders, you know, and Western Australians do tend to take their pride a little bit too far. I'm not talking about arrogance, I'm talking about straight pride in our state. And they've built that pride with the help of natural resources. Now, Gold Temp has shown that sort of confidence that we need. Not loud-mouthing confidence, the sort of confidence that gets on with the job and achieves things. And there are indications that it is emerging within other areas of the business community, in spite of all of the economic difficulties which are plaguing Australia and indeed are plaguing the world at present. Now, I don't know whether you read the article in the Sunday Mail last weekend. It summed up now what I must admit I've been saying for months. And it was awfully nice to hear somebody else say it for a change. And although many of you have probably read it, I'm going to refresh your memories. And the story, you may remember, is headed South Australia shrugs off the poor sister image. And it says in part, South Australia, long considered the poor little sister of the country's bigger resource-rich states, is rapidly growing up. Now she is showing the quiet confidence of a nubile young woman who knows she has a great many things going for her. Businessmen from around Australia are showing keen interest in South Australia as the state's economy continues to improve. By comparison with other states, South Australia has a healthy economic climate with a steady upward growth trend across all economic indicators. And this is something no other state can claim at the moment, and it is this which is making investors sit up and take notice. And a bit further on, trade inquiries at the Chamber of Commerce are mounting every day, and both overseas and interstate companies are expanding or moving back to this state. And still later, one of the reasons for the growing overseas interest is the placing of Adelaide on the world maps by the establishment of an international airport here. And when this comes on stream, tourism and the service industries are expected to boom. And in the meantime, local companies are, generally speaking, showing a much better balance sheet performance. And it's the bottom line that counts. Gold Temp is part of that. And you should be very, very proud indeed to be part of that development. As the article indicates, a great deal has been achieved in the past 1,000 days. There's more, much more to be done. But this is the sort of company, the sort of activity that will help to generate that new investment which is absolutely vital to South Australia. Now, before I finish on my theme of 1,000 days, I would like quickly to touch on an issue of some concern which has emerged in the past 2 days. In spite of some cosmetic manoeuvring, the Federal Labor Party has broadly reaffirmed its policy of fundamental opposition to uranium mining, processing and export. Now that is the real effect of the conference deliberations, and it supports the opposition shown by the Labor Party to the Roxby Downs Indenture Bill, which was passed recently. Now the point I want to make is this. By the end of 1984, in less than another 1,000 days, the feasibility study on the Roxby Downs project will be complete. We've worked hard and we've worked long, preparing the indenture agreement and guiding it through the Parliament. In its agreed form, it guarantees that Roxby Downs can go ahead and bring great benefit to South Australians. Following the recent conference in Canberra, it has been suggested that Roxby Downs has been exempted from the Labor Party's policy on uranium. That is not so. And indeed, the project looks to be under threat from any Labor government in the future. On behalf of all concerned South Australians, let me say just this. The position must be clarified beyond all doubt. There must be no doubt about the future of Roxby Downs, with its promise of jobs now and in the future, the money it will put in South Australian pockets and the prosperity it will bring to many businesses like this one. Roxby Downs must be treated as a bipartisan project, as a project to benefit all South Australians. And I gladly tonight give you my government's guarantee that Roxby Downs and all such developments which will advance the welfare and the prosperity of South Australians will have our wholehearted and unequivocal support. I have today invited the Leader of the Opposition to give an equally unequivocal and forthright statement of support for Roxby Downs now and in the future. And again, I will urge you to do so, because this is what the vast majority of South Australians want. There must be no scope for doubt, no scope for misinterpretation, because we're talking about the future of a $1,000 million investment in South Australia, an investment which would create at least 10,000 new and permanent jobs. And above all, we're talking about South Australia's reputation and its future. Companies like this one, whose success that we're celebrating tonight, are waiting to capitalise on likely expansion in the resource area, to take advantage of the development must occur. We just can't afford to miss out on opportunities like this, because they come to a state or a nation only once or twice in a century. And the spirit of enterprise and hard work, which so well served our pioneering forefathers, must be carried on, just as it has been carried on in the present day by companies like Gold Temp. May I say that your achievements are achievements of which you can be very proud. They're typical of what can be done in South Australia, both now and in the future. And I congratulate everyone associated with the operation. I'm so pleased that you mentioned wives and partners, because I know and have every reason to know just how important that is. So, congratulations to you all, to everyone who's had anything at all to do with the success of what is a very, very important and indeed great project. I think you've done a great job. Thank you very much for inviting me here today, for giving me what I consider to be a very great honour indeed. It is with a very great deal of pride and pleasure that I declare these premises open.
Ready? Thank you, Mr. Premier, for those very kind and encouraging words, and also your explanation on the Roxby Downs. I would now like to introduce Mr. Doug Bell, the State Director of the Industrial Design Council of Australia. The Industrial Design Council of Australia indeed carries an achievement award. An award that is recognised throughout Australia, throughout the Commonwealth countries, indeed throughout the world. Therefore, I can quite safely and sincerely say that the Industrial Design Council of Australia is indeed contributing an enormous amount to our community by providing a recognisable achievement award to business and industry, which is undoubtedly motivating and inspiring to businesses to make and improve on their products, and by doing so, improve on our great Australian way of life. I would like to ask Mr Dugwell to say a few words prior to asking our Premier to assist him in the presentation of 2 awards to our company representative and General Manager, Mr David Gregg. Therefore, can I please have a very warm welcome from Mr Dugwell, the State Manager of the Industrial Zone.
Thank you, Colin, Mr Premier, Mayor of Woodville, the parliamentary colleagues, Mr Tonkin, Mrs Tonkin, and invited guests, of which I'm one. There are a couple of hard acts to follow. I've just been told by the Premier not to foul up his second speech. And I must confess that in the past week, this is the 3rd time that the Premier has had to listen to me go over the sort of information that I want to tell you tonight. So much so that last Friday I suggested to him that he has now become the holder of an award himself. He's given the greatest number of awards for the council in this state. And he said, surely I deserve an award. Well, that's given us a bit of a poser during the week. What can we do? First thought was earplugs, because he's heard me raving on so much. Well, that's not too good a job, because sometimes we need to say a few things that he needs to hear. So we have got a presentation for you tonight, Mr Premier, but I'll leave that until later. I'd just like to tell everyone here, those that don't know, what the Industrial Zone Council is about and what the awards are about, especially those people within the company who are going to be marketing the product and need to know in full detail. The council was established in 1958 as a non-profit organisation with the express aim of establishing design as an essential factor in the production of Australian products as a means of improving productivity, sales and profit, in turn promoting a healthy, vigorous manufacturing industry, which in turn should contribute to the economic and cultural welfare of our nation. Our most recognisable activity is the award system, and the awards recognise high standards for Australian manufactured goods, and all products licensed to use these awards go through a rigorous testing and evaluation procedure by independent experts on behalf of the Council. Now, the rigorous procedures are well known to GTI. I wouldn't like to guess, but I think, David, it might be some 15 to 18 months ago we started talking about this. And I think the Council owes a debt of gratitude to the fortitude of our Field Officer John Nash down there for carrying GTI through fairly long, rigorous procedures. But the awards themselves, we have a set of criteria up here. We generally write out guide sheets appropriate to the product based on those criteria, and we have independent panels and various other bodies look at the products for us. Our first award is the Design Selection Label, and this award is seen as the hallmark for Australian manufactured goods of quality. Following a product gaining that sort of an award, the Council itself bestows the Australian Design Award for another set of criteria. And this is the ticket of excellence, which demonstrates Australian design and Australian innovation in the product and consummate elegance in the carrying out of those sometimes difficult criteria in a product. I found it very interesting with GTI when we've gone through the design selection procedure to go to my colleagues in our Sydney Design Centre at the time and try to convince them that the product was of a sufficient standard to get an Australian Design Award. And they were somewhat tongue-in-cheek, why should a building product get this award? And the way that GTI had prepared the actual submission, in addition to the information that we were prepared to give to them, it was quite the easiest job that I've ever had. And they were all surprised, even after they agreed, that a building product such as this should have this honour bestowed on. Prior to asking the Premier to present the award to David Gregg, I'd just like to give him an award. This 1980's site behind me, the Design South Australia, is a program which we started last year. It's an industry service membership scheme, and its function is to promote design excellence in consumer and industrial products by allowing industry to contribute to a scheme whereby they get access to our services. Your Minister Brown was the first honorary member of this program because he is heading our funding organisation for the state government. We felt it would be fitting that we present you with certificate number 100 as an honorary member, and I would like to now present this to you as you come up.
Well, that's something, isn't it? Thank you very much, Doug. And, I was going to surprise you all by not making a speech this time, now that you've come to expect one, you see, but what can I do? Seriously, I do appreciate that very much indeed, because the work that the Design Council does, I believe, is absolutely essential to the stimulation of good, high-quality products in South Australia. And I just can't speak highly enough of that organisation. It is always a pleasure to be able to attend and present the certificates. And that's exactly what I'm going to do now. I'm going to say very, very little else other than to say that it's wonderful to be able to hand over 2 awards to Gold Temp Industries for the same product. The sliding windows, which, as you know, have been selected from the Industrial Design Council Awards, are more than just merely functional and low maintenance. They do allow for double glazing either at the time of installation or afterwards if necessary. Obviously, it's important to have that ability because in today's energy-conscious society we need to be able to conserve energy. We also, in today's increased build-up of city living, need to be able to cut out some of the noise. Well, anything which helps conserve energy should be encouraged, and as far as I'm concerned, if for no other reason, then GTI deserves this award. But I think you'll agree that they've made a significant contribution to the style and certainly the quality of Australian manufactured goods, and for that they also deserve our congratulations. So let me thank the Design Council for their kindness in recognising my very small part in these things. Let me congratulate most wholeheartedly GTI Aluminium for the concept of the window and for their great success in being able to put on their product, and you see it, 1 green label and 1 blue label. Tremendously important. The design selection and the Australian Design Award. Congratulations.
Premier, Mr. Blackwell, State Director of the Design Council, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to thank you firstly, sir, on behalf of GTI Aluminium for taking precious time to be with us this evening to make these presentations, the design selection and the Australian Design Awards. I'd also like to thank the Industrial Design Council of Australia State Director Mr. Doug Bell, members of the submission panel who consider so a GTI award submission, and as well, if I may, read here field officer, well-known personality, Mr. John Nash, since he's been so long. For your help, guidance, assistance, patience, more patience during the 9 months that have passed under the spyglass of the Industrial Design Council. I'd also like to take this opportunity to indicate the gratitude of GTI Aluminium to the AHI Aluminium Franchising Company of New Zealand, who assisted invaluably in the design stages for the development of the roller window. And I would like to also say that this particular association that exists now between AHI Aluminium and ourselves was directly precipitated by the achievements and long-term successful association that exists between the AHI International Group New Zealand and our brother company, GTI China's. To simply say at this juncture that the attainment of these awards was a group effort on behalf of all concerned, leave it at that, would simply to be remiss. During the 9 months that I mentioned, the Design Council submitted every aspect of our entire operation to the closest scrutiny. Our method of gaining inquiries, our conduct in doing so. The procedures in selling and general conduct by a salesman on site. If I may make an aside there, Brad Bernard and his sales team sit here tonight at the end of the financial year with their sales part of their budget in their pocket without small contribution from being quality of our window and a contact with the Design Council, as well as their professionalism. As well, the Council studied the administrative procedures that we adopted and their effectiveness, our manufacturing function, in particular that part pertains to the maintenance continuously of long-term quality control of a high standard. And finally, the end of the cycle, which so often these days is the commencement of a new cycle, I'm glad to say. Our methods of installation and general conduct on site by our installation teams. I'd like to thank you, all of you at GTI very much for myself. And also for myself, I'd like to indicate publicly, and I will, that I'm very proud to be a member of the Brotherhood of Professional Sales that have, in my opinion, transcended what is usually the upper limit of acceptance of the sales team in business to have become professional businessmen as one, without having lost any of the enthusiasm, drive, downright idealism that is the hallmark of a professional salesman, and I trust that we'll never lose these elements at the core of success. Once again, sir, my thanks on behalf of the group and of GTI Aluminium. And may I say to the Council that the efforts that have been made in the attainment of these awards will continue from here. And I can most certainly assure you that from now on nothing at all will be lost on either side of this new association that has evolved between ourselves and the Industrial Design Council of Australia. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David Gregg, for accepting these awards on behalf of the company. As you may all be aware, David Gregg played a very major active part in the day-to-day activities and the duties in to achieve these awards. I know I'm also speaking for everybody here this evening, and everybody that would like to be here but couldn't, when I say, thank you, Mr. Premier, for officially opening this annual display centre and officiating these awards. Thank you, Mr. Doug Bell, most certainly Mr. John Nash, and all the members of the Industrial Design Council of Australia for making these wonderful awards available. I'd now like to introduce Mr. Len Lyon, our Group Manager, the architect of many of the internal management structures within the GTI group of companies. Len, like many others within our company, has never looked for any personal recognition apart from that which his position has demanded to get the job done. With great respect, I'd like a warm welcome for our own Group Manager, Mr. Len Lyon.
Mrs Tonkin, Mr Scott Ashenden, our State Member of Parliament for Todd, His Worship, the Mayor of Woodville, Mr Dyer and Mrs Dyer, Mr Doug Bell, State Director of the Industrial Design Council of Australia, Mrs Bell, distinguished guests, our own invited people, ladies and gentlemen. During late 1978 and early 1979, the directors of our company recognised the unlimited potential for expansion within the home improvement sector of the building and construction industry. This growth potential was undoubtedly as a direct result of the increasing trend for people to stay in and improve their current homes in preference to relocating in a new area. Following detailed research, it was concluded at the time that because of the great diversity of home improvements and hence a need for our specialisation, a number of individual organisations should be progressively established. These individual units, collectively forming our group, would all operate beneath the umbrella of a singular corporate identity, this identity being GTI, and they would all share a common framework of aims and objectives. These objectives were, firstly, each company should provide a total and specialised service with all personnel, be they sales, be they administration, management, installation or manufacturing people, all personnel should work with the common aim of achieving total customer satisfaction with both the product and the installation provided. Secondly, the primary product for promotion by each of these companies was to be neither the least or the most expensive available within its market, but rather it was to be the best available within the reach of the average homeowner's budget. And thirdly, each company within the group was to provide safe and secure employment to all its personnel, with remuneration being commensurate with each individual's abilities and achievements. This evening, a milestone in our growth, I feel personally charged with the responsibility of reporting to you about the current market position of each of the individual companies within our group, to explain briefly our forward planning and to then outline our group objectives into the near future. GTI Decretalis, our roofing company, as a result of its outstanding sales performance throughout the past 3 years, has recently been appointed as master distributors of the Decrebond lightweight roofing system in South Australia. Companies in a field as competitive as that of domestic re-roofing do not collate industry performance figures against which individual organisations such as our own can measure their positions. We do, however, believe that in the absence of any definite or absolute yardstick by which we can measure our market share, it suffices, and it's very pleasing to say, that in Australia's most competitive re-roofing environment, we have consistently been the leading distributors of this, Decrebond, the highest selling brand name. Decrebond, the customer. Decrebond is internationally recognised in over 40 countries throughout the world as a superior lightweight roofing system. In the coming year, special emphasis shall be given in our advertising to promoting the outstanding weather security features of the product. It is our belief, not only in Decretalis, that the average consumer is today more inquisitive, better informed and certainly better prepared to accept the product on its merits rather than on its price. As with all of the products promoted by this group, we are confident that Decrebond can stand up to and win out in the most critical and competitive of appraisals. Our roofing sales objective for the 82-83 year is to increase our real sales performance by 30%. To do so, from our current market level will not be an easy or a simple task. However, with the recent strengthening of our sales force and with better corporate and individual planning, I feel confident that this new peak and level can be achieved. As well as our Decrabond position, the professional and successful selling techniques employed by our GTI Decratola sales personnel have not gone unnoticed in other circles. May of this year also saw the appointments of GTI Decratolas as state distributors of the PVC wall cladding product Celluform. Celluform is manufactured by Duraform Building Industries, a company within the international James Hardie Group. On behalf of all our staff, I'd like to give special thanks this evening to Mr. Don Pryor, General Manager of Duraform, for having travelled all the way from Sydney to be present with us here this evening. Our sales policy for the Celluform product, a product that many of you may not be familiar with, but hopefully before the evening is out, after you have been through our display centre here, you'll all be aware of just what the Celluform product is. But our sales policy for Celluform is that we intend to follow a policy of working hand in hand with active metropolitan distributors and have drawn up a comprehensive program of promotions in the coming year accordingly. Further, within the country regions of South Australia and Western Victoria, our own sales personnel shall be active in establishing reselling agencies. Under the lead and control of our product manager, Mr. John Langton, we look forward to a healthy sales level from the new building market. With a continuance of Duraform support and an abundance of sales on our behalf, we see a long and healthy business relationship developing between GTI and the James Hardie Group. I spoke a few moments ago about the framework of aims and objectives that all companies under the GTI banner must work within. For the benefit of any competitors that may possibly have been listening in this evening, I conveniently omitted at the time another of our base objectives. Those that know us well know that that objective is that we aim at being the number one at whatever we do. So when GTI entered the aluminium window industry 2.5 years ago, we recognised the need that within our specialised field of window replacements, we had some formidable opposition. At that time, 2.5 years ago, there were at least half a dozen long-established companies entrenched in their market positions and not about to step aside lightly for any newcomer. I don't know the name of the advertising company that coined the particular phrase that to be number one you just have to be better, but in all honesty, that statement pretty well sums up how GTI aluminium staff felt at that stage, and that was that if we were to become number one, we were going to have to do everything better. With this in mind, David Gregg and staff, GTI Aluminium, set out to forge a first within the Australian window industry. A window designed specifically for our own window replacement market as its base criterion. A few moments ago, David Gregg accepted what was the culmination of the efforts of his staff throughout the past 18 months and paid due respect to the teamwork that has gone on behind the achievements. The Ryoc window, revolving on the side here, since its launch in September of 1981, has promoted within capable and professional hands GTI Aluminium to within a hair's breadth of the number one market slot. We have planned a concise media advertising program to promote the reasons behind the achievements of an Australian Design Award by this the Ryoc window. With the machinery we have now established, we are confident that with this final touch of advertising, GTI Aluminium shall take up their pre-planned position as market leaders within this financial year. 2 years ago, AHR Roofing Australia asked this growing South Australian company to establish some roots in Victoria and to show the homegrowns, how it should be done. Many people present here this evening would know our very own dynamic Eddie Cioffi. Eddie, capably assisted by his charming wife Emmanuel, by Peter Brewer and by Simon Forrest, now bears the responsibility of showing our Victorian counterparts how a Crow-Eater does it. Results today indicate our Melbourne roofing operation will undoubtedly follow in the steps of all other GTI companies. That is to the top. Won't it, Eddie? It is assuring to know that Eddie and his staff, while so far away on a daily basis, have the available assistance of Mr. Peter Bates. Peter, as Southern Regional Manager of AHI, is an extremely busy fellow, and once again, Peter, thank you for being with us here this evening. The GTI Group, having now completed through Decrabond, through RARC and through Celluform, the establishment of its exterior renovations companies, has, as we shall soon see, moved into and focused its attention upon the improvements to the interior of the home. GTI Kitchens, headed by one of our longest serving executives, Mr. David Wilshire, now faces the task of establishing its presence in one of the most complex segments of the home improvements industry. With the experience that David has gained as an executive of both GTI Decor Tiles and GTI Aluminium through their growth periods, he will no doubt build a viable operation within a very short period of time. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that now covers the past, the present, and the near future aims of each of the individual companies within the GTI Group. There certainly still remains, as said before by our Premier, so much for us individually and as a corporate body to learn, to experience, and to achieve. I would like to close with the only other objectives that we have perceived and established at this time. As a group, we intend to build and project a solid and dependable image to the public of South Australia. We intend to continue with our record of retaining adequate funds as a guarantee of our long-term viability, as well as maintaining the means by which we can assure ourselves of further corporate development. Finally, we intend to play an ever-increasing role next to those others that believe in the strong economic future of South Australian business. Thank you.
Thank you, Ledlow. Your business manner is indeed an inspiration to us all. I'd now like to announce a wonderful surprise we have. A very nice surprise. In fact, we have a short film, a 3-minute film to show you. This film will most certainly disclose and reveal our hidden secrets of success. Although I will ask you to do one thing for me. As you see, this film was made in America, obviously with GTI in mind. Therefore, whenever you see the speaker speaking and saying America, could you please imagine and believe that he's actually saying Australia? If you do this for me, I feel assured that our hidden secrets will be revealed to you. Any similarity, incidentally, with the speaker in this film is purely coincidence. Can I have the lights down, please?
The tradition of a great people, the tradition of progress, the tradition of honest toil, men and women working toward common goals, providing the world of business with high quality and needed goods and services, and yet earning an honest buck. And I will apologize for that. I will apologize for this great democratic free enterprise system of America. We're here to make an honest dollar. And I know that each and every one of you feel as I do. We have toiled to build this great company. The time has come to redouble our efforts. The future awaits us. And now is the time to act. Now is the time to move onward. I ask you to throw away old outmoded concepts. I ask you to discard uncertainties and doubts. I ask you to cast aside the past and move with us into the future. For the sake of our great country and everything that makes it great. For the sake of free enterprise. For the sake of the company. For the sake of the family. For the sake of the children. For another one. For apple pie. For puppy dogs and kitty cats. For everything that is near and dear to us. I ask you to remember just one word. The one word that makes it all possible. And that word is now. I want you to get out there and shout. I want you to shout
To anybody this evening, of course. I now wish to move a vote of thanks to our Premier, Mr. Doug Bell, and Mrs. Bell for coming in this evening. Obviously, an appearance which will hold fast in our minds for many years to come. Also, Scott Ashton, His Worship the Mayor of Woodville, Mr. John Dye, Mrs. Dye, Mr. Doug Bell, Mrs. Bell, and all you wonderful people that have made this evening complete. I hope that you have enjoyed yourself so far this evening as much as I have done. Please feel free to view our display area and take home with you any brochures that perhaps you could give to your next door neighbours. However, I ask you to be patient with us because initially our Premier, distinguished guests and key management staff will need to initially view our display centre. After you have all viewed our display centre, could you please rejoin us here in this warehouse, which we intend to magically convert into a grand musical for this evening's entertainment. Could you please refresh yourself at the bar while our stewards rearrange the display to him?
It's very nice, isn't it? Oh, hello. Well, fancy that.
Oh! It's lovely, isn't it?
Fancy that.
They make the ice cream.
Oh, yes. I'll have to talk to you about that.
Someone will have to talk to you.
Oh, please enter your name in the book as you leave.
Right.
Sell the man's head.
Mr. Premier, we're not in the movie business, unfortunately.
You're not?
There was a fault with that film.
Oh, I didn't know. I thought it was perfectly easy to understand, didn't you?
Yes,
Absolutely. I mean, the last message is...
One of the major features of it, it's completely adjustable, and
it's got legs on the bottom.
Ah, right.
Because invariably homes are not perfectly level and straight. The marketplace that we're aiming for particularly is the do-it-yourself type market, whereas the ordinary man in the street can actually adapt his existing kitchen area and have exactly what he desires.
What a pity. We've just got a new
Just put one in.
we've got a new townhouse too, so...
Would you like to drink a toast to our new venture into the kitchen?
Well, I'll drink it with you.
Would you?
Yes, yes. Look at this.
Would you?
This is terrible, isn't it? I'm going to go and tell mine tonight.
Oh, yes.
I don't have to be a bit careful, I don't know.
Thank you. Your help is very well.
Here's to you. All the best. Good luck to you, though. You might need it.
No thanks.
Yes, you will.
Don't need luck.
You won't say no to it. That's great.
Am I interrupting something?